Hi there folks, welcome to RRTV's live telecast of the ANZCAR Thursday Night Thunder, coming to you live from Mosport tonight, first of the road series, and I'd like to introduce my co-commentator tonight, Mr. Edward Foster. Welcome, Edward. It's going to be an interesting night.
Thanks, Bernie. It certainly is. I guess it's going to be a bit of a different feel tonight to the normal oval racing that we run. It's the only road course in the series for this season, so it's going to be interesting to see how everyone gets on.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's been a very popular round, that's for sure, because the server has been full for the last hour, and even though some guys have jumped out, the spot has been taken. So we've got a few names, including yourself, that can't actually get in the server tonight, so that's a little bit of a shame. But I guess, you know, to be fair, we didn't sort of expect this sort of a turnout so early in the season.
Yeah, well, I guess the big shock for everybody is that Jason Martin, who's really almost dominated the series so far, has actually missed out on the starting spot, so he's not going to be joining us tonight. I guess that really does leave the result open, so we could see a very close race in front, especially amongst those guys who are normally very proficient on the road courses. We've got a few guys jump in tonight who do a lot of road course racing, so it'll be interesting to see how they deal with these big heavy trucks.
Yeah, it certainly will, and I guess, you know, in the NASCAR terms, they call them the road course specialists, don't they? And no doubt quite a few of them would have turned out for tonight. But I did hear, though, through the week, Roger was saying that he was surprised at how quick a lot of these guys are, considering they haven't really done that much road course racing.
Yeah, I suppose it's really the same. I mean, if you can drive, you can drive. And while there are, you know, certain people who are going to have various skill sets that suit one over the other, if you can drive a car, you can drive a car. So you're going to see the capable guys still at the front. I think that looking at Jake Blackhall, he's one of the few guys who can actually lay claim to being every bit as good at road courses as he is at the ovals. And I know that there's a couple of other sort of more specialised road guys who I expect to be up the front giving him a hard time as well. So it should be a very interesting night's racing.
It certainly should be, and we can see them out there now. We're just starting qualifying, and they still get two flying laps by the looks of it once they've done their warm-up lap. The other interesting thing is, of course, that they're out there by themselves, as they always are in this series, so there shouldn't be any drafting or any problems with traffic in setting these times.
No, certainly not. It's a system that NASCAR have used for a long time. It's this one-at-a-time qualifying, and therefore it allows everybody to get out there, have a clean lap, no drafting or other interference, and really gives a good sort of indication of where everybody sits in terms of their outright pace.
Yeah, it certainly should, and we can see now Danny Stevens out there. He's starting his first flying lap in the West End Mazda entry, and I'll tell you what, these cars look quite good out here on the road circuit.
Yeah, you don't really notice how good some of these paint schemes actually look when you're out there in the thick of battle, but some of the trucks I've seen tonight, when you get a chance to actually look at them, look absolutely awesome. In terms of Daniel Stevens himself, I would be keeping an eye on him tonight. He's certainly very capable on road courses, and in the last season that we ran before all ANZCAR and everything came about, one road course we ran was Sonoma, and he actually took pole for that race, so definitely one to keep an eye on. Good skills on road courses for Daniel.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to actually see who the guys are to keep an eye on. Another one, of course, will be Jake Blackhall for ERT. He's not only a very skilled oval racer, he's an extremely skilled road racer as well, so he'd have to be coming in here as one of the favourites. He's seated down there in 18th at the moment, but he hasn't done a flying lap as yet.
Yeah, I'd say that Jake Blackhall would be the favourite for tonight. He'd certainly be my pick if I would have put some money down. I can also tell you that, as mentioned, Daniel Stevens is obviously very quick. Scotty Harris is very quick, one to keep an eye on. And my little bro, James Foster, he's been putting a lot of effort into in this race in particular, as he's probably the first to admit that at the moment his oval racing, skills and experience aren't at the level of some of these other guys, and he's really targeted this race as one where he wants to get a good result, so keep an eye on him as well.
Yeah, definitely. He's been frustrated in the last couple of rounds, hasn't he? He's got the pace, but he just hasn't had the the luck going his way and had a few issues with other drivers or cars or however you want to put it. But at the moment, looking at our times, I'll let you answer that in a minute. Jake Blackhall just jumped to the top there, as we thought he would. His time, a 1:19.914. So if we bring up our qualifying standings as they are, your top 10, we've got Jake Blackhall number 1, followed by Thomas Hinds, another very good road racer. James Foster sitting in third, 1:27.40. Sam Ross fourth, fifth Wayne Taylor. We've got Nathan Anderson in 6th. 7th is Dave Douglas. Riley Curtis follows him in 8th. Daniel Stevens, and then Mirko Dortanak. Oh man, that's going to test us. Sitting in 10th at the moment.
Yeah, so as we expected, a few different names up there to what we normally see. Just touching on what you were saying earlier on about James, yeah, he's quite new to oval racing, and he, there's two things you need to learn when you jump from road over to oval, and the biggest one, I suppose, is the mental approach and the racecraft involved. So he'll learn with time to sort of spot the things can get him into trouble, and he'll probably be finishing races a whole lot better. But that's not going to matter tonight. It's all about the road racing skills tonight. So we're going to see lots of late braking manoeuvres and passes under brakes on the entry to a corner, whereas most of the time on the ovals it's obviously on the exit of a corner where the overtaking's done. So going to be certainly very different to what we're normally used to seeing in the Thursday Night Thunder.
Certainly will. Now, as far as safety cars go here tonight, how's that going to work out? Is it going to be... It's not going to be, of course, like oval racing when there's a crash, the pace car comes out straight away. Is it going to be more like road course where racing just continues on?
Yeah, the racing will generally continue on. I think iRacing does throw a caution flag if there's a big accident, such that would block the circuit or something of that nature. But certainly people just running off the track, having spins, things like that, would not be bringing out a full course caution.
Okay, so that'll be something that will be different for us, of course. I'm used to that when I call the road races anyway. And we can see now Roger Clark, the number 26, well, he's in 26th position at the moment in the 09. And what did he just do? Well, he's on his first flying lap, so let's see what he does do.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know that Roger is very much a stock cars diehard. He does dabble a little bit in the road racing side of things. On not only iRacing but a couple of other sims as well, and he grew up playing Grand Prix Legends with his old man, Norman Clark, who I believe has joined us tonight as well. Yes, he has. There he is in 23rd place, and I would say that Roger will fare reasonably well tonight, if not on the pace of the absolute front runners. He'll definitely be solid.
Yeah, we can see him there just hanging the back out. He's up on Andretti straight now. I don't expect this to be a very fast time because he had it all loose coming into turn 2 there, and then he hit the ripple strip into turn 3. And so it took him a few corners to get this looking what's the word, good? I guess, less messy.
Yeah, that's the thing as well with these trucks. They're not designed with this kind of racing in mind, where you're going from slow speed to high speed, you're accelerating and going off camber corners and things like that. They're designed to get to a high speed and hold it there for a long time. And they're really out of their comfort zone here, these vehicles. So having only a 4-speed gearbox as well, always very important to be in the right gear. And if you do get it messy, you can lose a lot of momentum, because even though the engines have got a lot of torque, it's not quite as good as keeping it in that nice ideal rev range for the entire lap.
Yeah, so at the moment, Roger he's sitting in 21st and he's on his second flying lap. It's looking a lot less messy than the last one. I'm a bit tongue-tied, folks, because we've had gremlins here in the studio once again tonight, haven't we, Edward? But we've battled through this time, unlike Monday night, which put a stopper to the broadcast before it started. Yeah,
we battle through. We always battle through.
Yeah. And if the folks are wondering tonight, yes, we're using the brand new computer that the community backers generously put put money towards, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get the gremlins out, but we are running 1080p tonight, 60 frames per second, so hopefully we're going to get through this and it's going to be looking fantastic when you guys watch it back if you're not watching it live.
And just as you say that, Roger's run off onto the grass, so that will generally invalidate his lap, so he's not going to improve from his current spot.
No, so he's going to be starting in 21st, and tell you what, that's in a field of 32. I don't know if I'd want to start down there because normally you're going to be in the thick of it. Ryan Kolstad, he's also in the pits. I don't think he's actually come out. He's done one lap and he's basically just sitting in there, and looks like he's done, as are all the other drivers now. So we can just about go through the grid very shortly.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting starting area, that sort of mid-grid area, especially when they get down to the fast downhill sweepers, left-handers at turn 2 especially. I'm not sure I'd want to be in the mid-pack there. The trucks are pretty lively as they get through, and I'd expect to see a little bit of action there on the opening lap for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and I guess, you know, as in NASCAR tradition, we're going to have a rolling start here tonight.
Absolutely.
Fantastic, so that'll give us a bit of time. I'm just looking up, Ryan Kolstad sent me a message and I'm just trying to find it. To do with his paint job tonight. It's for a charity, I think. I'm just trying to find it.
Okay. Yeah, just while you're running through that, I might just run through a little bit about the course, because it's a bit unique because it hasn't really changed a whole lot since the 1950s when they built it. Very much an old school style circuit with a lot of undulation. So it'd be very interesting to see how everyone copes with that rather than the flat banked ovals that we normally race on.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, isn't it? And we can hear the guys now queuing up. And, oh man, I've got to get used to this. We'll get there. Breathe. Okay, we can see them.
We always get there. We always get there.
We always get there, that's right. So we can see the guys queuing up now. We're going to have 32 cars hopefully joining us tonight. Well, there's 32 in the server. We'll see how many actually join the racing. But let's go through the grid so all you viewers at home can see where your favourite driver will be starting tonight. So Jake Blackhall, he'll start from pole tonight with a 1:19.914, and Scotty Harris will be starting on the outside of him in row 1. Row 2 tonight, we've got Darren McKenzie starting out of 3rd with Nathan Anderson in 4th position. Starting out of the 3rd row tonight's James Foster, and he's got Thomas Hinds next to him. Looking at the out of 7th tonight, we've got Sam Ross followed by Wayne Taylor starting beside him in 8th. Matt Clowett, he'll start out of 9th, and he's got Mirko Dortanak for company next to him. Dave Douglas, he'll start out of 11th, and Riley Curtis out of 12th position. Out to 13th tonight is Daniel Stevens, followed by Jared Farrell in 14th. Braden Bateman, he'll start in 15th, and Bruce Ross will be starting next to him. Stephen Williams will start out of 17th, and Darren O'Brien, he will start out of 18th tonight. Out of 19th is Danny G, and then we have Matthew Raymond starting next to him out of 20th. Roger Clark, a lot of work to do down there in 21st, with Craig Lawless next to him. Steve Hoppett, he's looking at having a good run tonight. He's starting in 23rd, and Norman Clark, Roger's father, he will start out of 24th position. Is this going to be a rolling start or a standing start?
It will definitely be a rolling start, absolutely.
Okay, let's continue then. Ryan Kolstad, he'll start out at 25th tonight. Brian James Jones starting next to him in 26th position. Danny Trim, he'll start out of 27th, and Matt Stratford, also another driver to keep an eye on tonight, in 28th. Shane Whiting, he'll start out of 29th, with Jason Ress in 30th. Out of 31st will be Derek Nichols, and Phil Otto, he rounds out our field of 32, but I don't think he's actually taken to the circuit.
No, I believe that Phil had something else come up and will not actually be starting the race tonight, so a bit of a shame for him. But we do have 31 trucks here ready to go. But looks very, very busy on that on the tight confines of this circuit. So yeah, hopefully they can all find enough space to get around lap 1 cleanly. Somehow I doubt that's going to happen. We might see a bit of action. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, and as always, folks, we've got the roof cam, bumper cam, gyro cam, which gyro cam's interesting. You can generally see how much these cars move around over the undulations and bumps. But we're having a look out at the moment from Stephen Williams, starting out of 13th tonight.
I will just make a quick comment as well. It looks as though that Shane Whiting has had a couple of technical issues and he will be starting from the pits. He was starting reasonably close to the back anyway in 29th. That probably won't make a huge difference to his race and might actually help him avoid some of the first lap carnage. So he'll be interesting to follow throughout the day.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I've noticed with road racing is keep an eye on turn 2, folks. If they get that wrong, it's a tricky double apex corner, but if they get out into the grass there's absolutely no coming back from that, and generally the fence beckons.
Absolutely. You get out onto that grass, there's no sand, anything like that, and it's just a downhill slide straight into the barrier, and that is you out of contention.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we can see James Foster there starting out of 5th. Of course, so we would jump up the front and just trying to find where our driver is on this crazy overlay. But there he is, Jake Blackhall. Phew, the number 97. He'll have control of this, and they'll go on green. 36 laps around here, folks. Jake Blackhall gets a great start off the line. Scotty Harris tucks into second, as we'd expect there, and then just waiting for them to sort themselves out here. Then in third at the moment is Jason Ress.
Yeah, it's all looking pretty clean at the moment, actually. Everyone's behaving themselves, finding themselves a bit of space, a bit of congestion, I guess, towards the back of the field, but at least the front guys look as though they've got away pretty cleanly. You can see Thomas Hinz just having a little bit of a look down inside of, I believe it's Stevens just there, so I don't believe that move came off, and no, he's still behind Stevens at the moment. So yeah, they'll just all sort themselves out, try to get into a bit of a rhythm, and start making the moves once their tyres get up to temperature and everything gets a little bit more comfortable out there.
Yeah, and we saw Thomas Hinz there. He's chasing down Darren McKenzie. Darren had a little bit of a wobble there under brakes as he's getting used to it, because of course these cars are now set up to turn both ways, so that affects the handling and all sorts of things. But coming through to complete lap 1, we have Jake Blackhall at the moment. He is leading in the number 97 to Scotty Harris. Then we have Nathan Anderson sitting in third. He's getting a bit of a gap on Darren McKenzie, who's under pressure from Thomas Hinz. James Foster in the 14th, good start, sitting in 6th. Then we've got Sam Ross coming through, Wayne Taylor 8th, 9th, Matt Clowett, and rounding out your top 10 is Mirko Detonovic. That's a good name, I'm getting it wrong even more.
Yeah, they're not always easy to pronounce, are they? But you can see that these guys are keeping it reasonably clean, coming through these first couple of laps, and you can see that that everyone's sort of just jostling at the moment, but just really trying to find their position. They know that there's quite a few laps to go. 36 laps is a long way around here. It's not like an oval where the laps are over in 20 or 30 seconds. These are a minute and a half. So they will just be looking to consolidate at the moment, and then really get stuck into it. We're going to see some pit strategy tonight as well. They will need to stop for fuel. We may see some varying strategies on when they whether they choose to take tyres, whether they take 2 or take 4 or take none. Varying strategies from there. I think the front guys definitely are going to be looking at taking tyres for sure. There's no reason to gamble if you've got the kind of pace. You may see something a little bit different from the guys in the midfield, try and steal a march on the guys ahead.
Yeah, we're riding up with Thomas Hinz now on the roof plan. Just jump back here in a minute and see who he's got company here. You can see right behind him James Foster there in the DeWalt entry, just shadowing him at the moment. I must say the guys have all approached this very sensibly, haven't they? And they're just feeling their way. As you can see, James Foster's wheel work there.
Yeah, I'm surprised about it actually, as James has a little bit of a look at Thomas, but too far back to get that done. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that we haven't had more blood rushes to the head so far, and the red mist descends and a bit of panel. Maybe that'll come out later on.
Yeah, it could do. I think at the moment everyone's just finding their feet as we jump on board now with James Foster. You can see him at the office there working hard behind Thomas Hinz. Now, Thomas is quite a good road racer. That's where I've seen most of his driving. So James is doing an awesome job here. Can you tell us a bit about James's background when it comes to road racing, Edward, since he's your little brother?
Yeah, absolutely I can, as he just works away on the back of Thomas there. The first thing to know about James is, and having raced with him for years and years in various sims and real life and so on, he is absolutely ruthless. There's a lot of guys here on the track who get on very well. They're quite cordial and courteous to each other. James sees absolutely everybody out there as a rival that's there to be beaten and nothing more, and he doesn't care if he upsets people on the way. So, and it's always been the same. His background is very much like mine. We've taken part in a lot of club and state level competition around Adelaide, where we both live, and sort of moved into sim racing as well. You know, we've been playing sims for as long as we can probably remember, all the way back to the Micropros Grand Prix days. And he got into iRacing a bit before me, and was certainly very dedicated to it, and even managed to build up his iRating on the road side of things to around about 4,000. So he's certainly no rookie at the road racing side of things, and now sort of on my encouragement he's decided to start getting involved in the ovals and the stock cars as well, so always following his progress quite closely.
Yeah, he's doing a great job out there as well. He's getting a bit of a gap on the guy behind him, which is Sam Ross, but likewise he's just dropping off a little bit with Thomas, although now he's closed up, and that's the rubber band. But we're getting a few good battles down through here. I was having a look, Wayne Taylor's having a good battle with Matt Clout, and Mirko is trying to get on the back of them, but of course Dave Douglas down there in 11th, and he's just trying to stay in that draft.
Yeah, absolutely, and the draft isn't such an important thing here, but there are a couple of straights. You know, Mirko he's quite new to this series. He's only really just joined up with ANZCAR, and I was having a bit of a look at him in practice, and he was putting in some fairly good one-lap times, but he was struggling to really keep that on a consistent level, and had a few spins. So he'll be looking to really just try to keep it together and get to the end, I think. And if he's able to get on the back of someone with the experience of Matt Clout and give him a little bit of curry, I think he'll be more than happy with that.
Yeah, well, he's holding his own out there in 10th position, and I'm looking at his lines there. He's pretty much following exactly what Matt's doing. Well, you don't want to do what Matt's doing there. He's getting it all wide and loose and into the wall, and that's your fault. That's called commentator's curse. I'm blaming you because you're the new guy in the chat room.
Yeah, just keeping a look on that after Matt's gone off. Dave Douglas has put a great move on Merck around the outside there, coming down the hill. I can tell you now that move is really hard to do, and it takes somebody of Dave's quality to actually get that done. And Mirko got a little bit flustered on the inside, got a bit loose, but they both managed to get through there okay. And I think poor Matt Clout's going to have some catching up to do.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's down there in 15th, but I tell you what, I know what Mirko was thinking. He was thinking, don't come over my side, and he probably breathed a big sigh of relief when it snapped to the left and sent Matt out towards the wall.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I'm just having a quick look at Clout, and he's run wide again. He's not run off the circuit, but he and I believe it might be Jared Farrell having quite a battle there. Roger Clark's involved, Steve Williams is involved also, so they're having a nice old battle at the back. But the thing is, they'll be fighting each other, and it's always great to fight, but because they're fighting further down the field, they're going to be frustrated. All they want to do now is get past these guys and get forward, because they'll all believe that they should be higher up than what they are. So those kind of frustration can lead to mistakes, and I'd say that Matt Clout's probably a bit frustrated with himself at the moment as well.
Yeah, I'm having a look at Jared Farrell. He's actually parked the car just outside pits, and that's why, folks, downshifting is blowing his motor, and that's the end of his night. By the looks of it, he didn't even take it to the pits. He just parked it to go behind the wall.
Yeah, well, that's a big shame for him. Obviously, with these cars, you know, they don't have the electronic limiters and things like that you do find on the GT3 cars, for example, or even the V8 supercars. Everything's very sort of agricultural, low technology with these cars, and you can certainly make a mess of things if you don't drive them with finesse, which sounds funny for such a big, heavy, brutish car, but you really do need to be gentle on them a lot of the time. Yeah,
definitely. It's one of those things, isn't it? You've got to be kind to the car, I guess. And as you said, they're pretty agricultural, but that's why we love them. at the moment, Jake Blackhall's leading with Scotty Harris shadowing him 0.5 of a second below. But look at that gap back to Nathan Anderson, 4.2 seconds. So those two have absolutely bolted. Then we've got Darren McKenzie, he's 5.8 seconds down. James Foster, he's just got past Thomas Hinds by the looks of it, moving up to 5th. So your little brother's moved up a position. Then Thomas Hinds, Sam Ross. Oh, Sam Ross. Okay, he has to have internet connection issues because when we jumped to him, he was on his side.
Oh dear, yes, I've actually just seen the number 25 CMS truck run wide. I'm not sure exactly who's driving that one. I'll have to double check. But he's just run wide and rejoined as well. There's a fair bit going on back in the pack there, absolutely. Very hectic.
Yeah, that was Sam Ross there, but he got the car right up on its side turning in. I don't know if that's what he would have seen or not, but we got it on camera, and I'm sure I'm not hallucinating, but I'd say it's internet connection issues for him. So that was Sam Ross in the 25, Wayne Taylor's just behind him, Dave Douglas is on the move up to 9th position. Having a look at the guys that have pitted so far, Edward, because I have noticed there is a bit of action going on in the pits. We've had the first one to come in is Danny Stevens, 16.9 seconds, and the other two that are in trouble there, Jared Farrowell got towed to the pits, and so did Shane. Well, Shane Whiting started out of the pits, and he's in 27th.
Yeah, Daniel's actually not in the lead lap. Daniel Stevens, sorry, is not in the lead lap either at the moment, so I can only imagine that he's had some sort of difficulty as Ross goes off again. Actually, he's just gone off into the grass. So both of those guys off the lead lap, they would have been able to get a repair with their fast repair and get back out there, but unfortunately now they're a lap down, and around this place you're just not going to get that back.
No, you definitely won't. And just having a look, Sam Ross looks like he's dropping off. As we can see, the 77 getting out there in the grass, that's Darren O'Brien, and he's also had company out there. And I'm just trying to get a number of that car. The 81 also went off at turn 2. That's Steve Hoppett. So Steve told me during the week he had a really rough run last week, and I was speaking to him through the week, and he was adamant that he wanted a better run tonight, but it looks like he's in the wars out there at the moment.
Yeah, Steve Hopper, he's really a great addition to ANZCAR. I mean, I know he's joined you up in the commentary box here before, and he's so into his racing, and he really, he's one of these guys that just enjoys it and gets absolutely everything out of it. And not only that, I know he does his own paint schemes as well, and if you have a look at his truck, it looks absolutely fantastic, absolutely time well spent. And I can tell you that the ANZCAR Daytona 500 that we're actually looking at doing next start of next year, he's got an absolutely sensational colour scheme fit up for that one as well. So watch this space. Fantastic.
We definitely will, and see him down there circulating. But meanwhile up front, Jake Blackhall and Scotty Harris are still going at it. Scotty's down to 0.2 of a second. He's right in the toe, and he's having a look at come into the S's off Andretti straight, tucks it back in, shows the nose, but doesn't follow through with the intention.
Yeah, I reckon Scotty's got the pace here. I reckon Harris has definitely got the pace at this stage of the race over Blackhall. I'm not sure. I know that Blackhall's quite an intelligent guy. He's not going to burn his tyres up. He may be looking at running the entire race on those tyres, but he is going a little bit defensive there into turn 1 as well, and you can actually see Harris just sort of looking, just sort of probing and biding his time. But with the pace that he's got at the moment, he's really going to be looking to make a move sooner rather than later, so he can extend a gap and give himself a little bit of space to play with.
As we see him running off there down into second gear. Notice in turn 1 there, Jake went defensive, braked, and Scotty actually wanted to go through that corner a bit quicker, and he had to back off. But now we can see Jake just stretching it out as they come down into Moss corner here. Scotty looking on the inside. Oh yeah, I could see that. He gathered it up pretty nicely though. I was expecting him to carry on there.
Yeah, he's cost himself a little bit of time, and I'm telling you, that is not as much about Scotty Harris's driving there as it is about Jake Blackhall's. He absolutely suckered him into that one, braked on the apex, and really just left Scotty with nowhere to go, and that's what caused that. So some very clever driving by Jake, who may not have the outright pace of the car pursuing him at the moment.
He may not have, but he's definitely showing Scotty that he's going to be a difficult customer to get past if Scotty expects to take the win tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. You've got to get past him on track. Everyone's going to have to make one stop, so cautions and things like that probably aren't going to come into play. So it's going to need to be a move made on track, and it looks like it's a battle that's going to be shaping up for the entire distance of this race.
And down in 13th we have Wayne Taylor. He's having a bit of a battle here with Ryan Kolstad, and Ryan's in 14th position driving the pink car. I'm still trying to get into my Facebook page where he sent me the message about why his car's that colour. I'm pretty sure it's to do with raising awareness for breast cancer.
Yeah, I believe there are a couple of guys out there who are actually running pink for that reason. Obviously, it's that type of year where a lot of that's going on, raising awareness for the breast cancer, and I believe it's something that his family's actually been touched by as well. So, definitely a cause close to his heart, I'm sure. Also notice the Mazda logos on the bonnet of that particular truck. I bet they wish they could get some Mazda BT50s out here on track, eh? I'm sure our good friends at West End Mazda would be thinking they would absolutely dominate.
Yeah, there you go. There's a bit of a plug for West End Mazda, and of course, they do so much for our esport, don't they? With all the generous backing and sponsorship they provide to many organisers and teams out there.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and it's good to see businesses finally cottoning on to the fact that there's exposure to be had. There's good exposure to be had in esports like this. It's a growing, certainly a growing genre, and it really takes, I suppose, innovative business owners who are willing to take a little bit of risk to get their name out there and promote themselves using this medium. And I think it speaks very highly for the people in charge at West End Mazda who've got the foresight to actually get on board with this. And I think quite a few companies are going to be left behind if they don't jump on like these guys have.
Yeah, well, the thing is, now's the time to jump on if you own a business and you want exposure, because at the moment you can pretty much get your name on these cars at a very affordable price, let's put it that way, and you're getting in on the ground floor. But as you said, Edward, once the word gets out and people jump on, it's going to get interesting to see if everyone can get that amount of exposure.
Yeah, and speaking of names on the cars, we've also got Shane Whiting, who's out there competing tonight, and he's running the colours of Advanced PC Simulations, who are a great sponsor of ours here at ANZCAR. They've been involved with us from almost the beginning, and provided us with a lot of support as well. So it's great to see him out there sporting his colours, and they're supplying all sorts of PC simulation gear in the Canberra area. So yeah, absolutely fantastic to have them around as well.
Yeah, have they opened up yet? Because I want to go and pay them all a visit.
I believe they have. I know they're trading to some degree. I'm not sure if their premises are up and running yet though, but if Shane sticks around for an interview after the race, we can ask him.
Yeah, definitely, because I'll definitely go and pay him a visit. I'm a Canberra bloke myself, so go out and have a look and have a chat with him. But at the moment though, one person that isn't having a chat, that's Jake Blackhall. Well, he's just hanging out the window yelling at Scotty, is that the best you can do? But I guess that's not really a chat, is it?
No, not really, but it seems like that gap between them's just sort of stabilised a little bit. Maybe Scotty Harris has just burned his tyres up a little bit in that pursuit. It looks as though Scotty may be narrowing the gap slightly, but it doesn't look as though he has the pace advantage as he just slides wide a little bit there while I speak. The pace advantage that he had earlier on Jake, it looks like Jake's been very steady, taking care of his tyres, and perhaps that really aggressive run at the start will come back to bite Scotty, but perhaps at the very least until the pit stop where he can get some fresh rubber.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with these cars. They've got to really finesse these tyres, don't they? Because I heard they pretty much go off in about 10 laps around here, and as you can see, Scotty's sort of struggling at the moment. And looking further back, Darren McKenzie, he's doing a great job there with James Foster behind him, Thomas Hinds. They don't seem to be having tyre trouble, but they're about 10.7 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, I think the lead two have just checked out, and I mean, speaking of tyres on these things, if anybody's seen Days of Thunder and they remember old Harry pulling Cole Trickle aside and telling him about how not to burn up his tyres and how tyres are what wins races, Steve Hoppett's just run off and gone into the wall again. He has got back going though, but that scene really, I suppose, illustrates the importance of looking after the tyres in these stock cars. And it doesn't matter if it's the trucks, the Cup cars, the Xfinities, any of the stock cars like this, tyres are an absolutely crucial factor, and the best guys manage them so well, and that's something that Jason Martin is absolutely fantastic at. And it's obviously a real shame that he's not joining us tonight. Road racing isn't normally his thing, but he did mention he'd done quite a bit of practice to get up to speed on this, and big shame he hasn't been able to join us, but such is the popularity of this ANZCAR monster we've created.
Yeah, it definitely is showing the popularity of this great series, but one thing I'm thinking about is the points, and this is pretty much going to gift Jake, if he wins a race, with a great points haul. And at the moment we do know Jason Martin and Jake were neck and neck on points, so it'll be interesting to see how Jason not getting into the serve is going to affect his championship running. As we see now, Scotty Harris just running off there, and he's picked it up now, but that was a bit awkward. I don't know if you saw that, Edward. He was passing a car laps down, and they sort of didn't touch, but it just got a bit awkward between the two of them.
Yeah, it does happen like that, especially on road courses. You just catch somebody or get caught by somebody in an awkward position, and sometimes there's nothing you can do. Sometimes it's nice and easy. You catch them on a straight or in a corner where overtaking's easy, but if you catch them in a tight section, you really just have to make the best of it. I just wanted to make a quick note about Jake Blackhall as well, because in all the oval races so far, he's not been, I think by his own admission, he would say that he hasn't been the fastest truck out there. That has invariably been Jason Martin. But I'll tell you one very important thing. Every single time that Jason Martin has failed to win the race, Jake Blackhall has beaten him. And that is absolutely crucial to his championship hopes. He might not be the fastest guy on the ovals. Jason Martin's usually got the pace, but it's that consistency. He's really built this entire championship challenge off those two early wins he was able to get when Jason Martin hit trouble. And like I said, every time that Jason hits trouble, Jake capitalises on it. And that's what's really kept him in the hunt and gives him a fantastic opportunity now to take this points championship.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I'll tell you what, last week, if people didn't see the ending to that race, go and have a look at it. And I tell you what, not many people survived that last lap, did they?
No, absolutely not. But there's a couple of guys who are very happy that they did, not least of which being Kai Sloggett, who popped up there for a surprise victory. I was actually away at the time. I was away on holiday, but I did check in to see the results, and my first reaction was who? But I'm led to believe that he's actually a very, very accomplished road racer, and perhaps I should have been paying more attention to that. I would have known who he was. But what a fantastic debut! Go in there, come out with a win, fantastic.
It certainly was, and he worked pretty hard for it as well, which they all did. But he did a fantastic job on his debut there in this series. Matt Clote has just done his pit stop. 14.9 seconds was his stop. Danny Stevens did a 16.9. We've got Matthew Raymond a lap down and struggling out there on the road course, 29.6 seconds. Steve Hoppett, he's in the pits at the moment taking service. He's now 2 laps down and 21 second stop.
Yeah, so Matthew Clote, he's really one of the first ones in contention, I suppose, to make I'm fairly sure that would have been a scheduled stop. We are only 17 laps in. He can make it to the end on the fuel now, so he may have chosen to pit early, run the risk of being on slightly older tyres at the end, and sort of the trade-off for that is pitting early. He's able to come out in some clean air and set some good lap times, and hopefully leapfrog some of these guys who are battling each other.
Yeah, and Jake Blackhall, he's just come in the pits now, riding in the cockpit cam there. You could see him locking it up as he dove into the pits there. I thought he was going to get the wall, but he gathered it up. You could see the CMSR car, that 08, just leaving the pits now in front of him as we see him coming into the pits.
I'm actually surprised to see Jake pitting this early. I'm not sure if it's a tyre-related reason or something like that, but I'm surprised to see him pit so early, given the fact the clear air was not really an issue for him in the lead. As you see, I believe it's James Foster coming in behind him as well, and that may even be Thomas Hinds in the lane as well.
Just having a look further back here. And yeah, Thomas is in there, James is in there, so the pit crews are racing. Thomas just gets out. In fact, they've also got a car right behind him. That was, who was that? I think that's a car.
Ryan Kolstad.
Ryan Kolstad coming out. But yeah, Thomas's pit crew did the job there and got him out just in front of James.
James has got it all to do again. He'll be filthy with that. He'll be absolutely filthy with it, having gone to all the effort of getting past Hinds in the first place. So I'm sure you're going to see some aggressive driving and maybe tapping some Morse code on the rear bumper of that GoPro Silverado.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, and we can see Jason Rest now. He's coming in the pit, so it's interesting. A lot of the guys are now coming in. I'm suspecting it's because they're at the about the halfway point here tonight, and they're just saying, let's go 50% of the way.
Yeah, that could be a way. That's a good average way to do it. It always really makes sure that you're not on overly poor tyres at any stage of the race. I'm surprised to see more guys not really prioritising the clean air, because I think that the time that you lose in a really close battle with somebody, and plus the potential damage and the risks, all the risks associated with that, they might have put more of a premium on clean air and maybe try something different, especially if you're a bit further down in the field. But obviously I'm not out there, they are, and they can only go by what they're feeling at the time. So I imagine quite a lot of them will have seen Jake Blackhall come in and simply copied that, given the fact that they're fairly well aware that anything that he's doing at the moment is probably a good thing to follow.
And then rounding out your top 10 is Braden Bateman. So we've only really got here now 12 cars on the lead lap here, Edward.
Yeah, there's quite a big disparity, I think, between obviously the guys who've had a clean race and the guys who haven't. I think that's all it really comes down to. There wasn't really a whole lot between them in qualifying. I'm just keeping an eye on the gap, the battle now between Thomas Hinds and James Foster. James is really getting onto the back of Thomas now, and will really fancy his chances of getting up to that number 30 truck in front of him also, as they just come through to lap Norman Clark. But I think that's probably the closest battle on the track at the moment, with the leaders separated by a pit stop. Thomas Hinds now just going to the inside of Norman Clark, and James doing his best to follow him through there, and he will be absolutely fancying his chances of getting by down here. There's a little bit of traffic further up the road. He hasn't got it done through that bit of traffic. As he runs to the outside, Thomas Hinds runs defensive down the inside. James is going to try and take him around the outside there, hanging on. No, he hasn't managed it, but he's put himself in a good position. But no, Thomas just goes back, claims the line, and they're going to come through for another lap. Focus on getting good exit here, as Thomas was a bit compromised, and he's really going to try and hold the draft now down towards turn 1, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move. And I guarantee you James will fancy his chances of getting on after Anderson should he clear Thomas Hinds.
Yeah, well, you can see now we're on the bumper cam here, looking at the GoPro car ahead of him, and you can see James is starting to feel racy. He knows there's an opportunity here as these guys are coming into lap traffic, and you know, that's a good time to start mounting the pressure, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Attack when the car in front, the driver in front, his attention's diverted onto something else, and they're actually catching up to another piece of lap traffic. I think Anderson's about to catch up to, it looks like, Jason Rees, and then of course once Anderson clears them, and he'll be hoping to clear that without getting too badly held up. And then of course you've got the warring 52 and 14 coming very close behind. So definitely a battle worth keeping an eye on, as we just have a look now at Thomas Hinds running defensive again. I think James is getting excellent runs out there. James holding on around the outside. He's gone for the outside, and is he on the inside for the next corner? He's just holding on the inside, and he's tapped him. He's actually tapped him. And that puts a real... Norman Clark's collected him as well. Thomas Hinds actually gone into the fence at turn 1 as well. Sorry, the last turn. And James has actually recovered and come past and gained that position. So absolutely frantic stuff there. And I thought James had thrown it away and actually wound up in front of Thomas at the end of all that. So racing. You just can't predict it sometimes.
Exactly right. I thought they were going to get away with it. We're just having a look at the replay. We'll go to super slow-mo here. You can just see there, James just gave Thomas a bit of a tap, and unfortunately for Norman, he caught the side of the 14, but you can see down the road the 52 just trying to gather it up. It doesn't. Oh, he did a beautiful slide though. He does get number one slide job, but unfortunately he found the fence.
Yeah, it just looks as though, I thought Thomas Hinzer got away with that, but it just looks as though he got a bit of pendulum action going on through that corner. Wasn't able to catch it when the track reversed back to the right for the last corner. So he'll be quite filthy with that, because James has stuck his nose in there, and they were obviously battling side by side quite aggressive. But when the contact was actually made, James has really kind of not been far enough along the of the inside, given him a bit of a tap and gone round himself, but also managed to spin Thomas out. So I think Thomas might be a little bit unhappy with that one, but as they say, that's racing.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I was watching it lap after lap, and I was thinking, gee, he's a brave man going around there in the S's there. You don't see that very often, but they nearly got away with it. It was just that last tap that was enough to unseat them.
Yeah, absolutely. And what it has done as well is completely put paid to either driver's chances of catching up to Nathan Anderson, who's looking pretty solid there in fourth at the moment. Darren McKenzie, I don't know if we missed him pitting during all of that, but he's sitting there in third place at the moment, as far as I can see. It looks as though the gap between Jake Blackhall and Scotty Harris has opened up during the pit stops as well. It's now looking at around about 8 seconds between the two of them.
Yeah, Darren McKenzie did stop. Now, you can answer this, because I don't know about their fuel limitation. He stopped 5.4 seconds. He was 9 seconds quicker than everybody else out there. Now, whenever I see a stop like that, the question mark I always have is, has he underfueled? Or is that not going to be a case here tonight with the trucks?
It won't, but the fuel load is not or the fuel filling is not the defining factor in the length of a pit stop. The tyres always take longer than the fuel. So I'd say what's happened there is he's either taken a splash of fuel with no tyres, or he's only taken 2. How long did you say the stop was, sorry?
5.4 seconds.
Okay, well, I would say that he hasn't taken tyres at all. I reckon he's taken enough of the splash of fuel to get him home, and I don't think that he will have taken any tyres whatsoever. So either his tyres are in really good shape, but I did say at the start of the race we might see some of the guys who are a little bit further down the field try something radical. They've got nothing to lose. Then it's not like the guys at the front who've got the outright pace and can pretty much afford to be conservative. Guys who weren't right at the front at the beginning, they can afford to do something a little bit different, and it's going to be really interesting to see now whether Darren McKenzie's able to hang on and nurse that thing to the end on what's going to be very old tyres. But of course I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't, would you? You're taking leaves out of that book yourself. With a couple of rounds back, I think it was, you were making me double guess my telemetry.
Yeah, I had to throw some reference to myself in there somewhere. I can't talk about everyone else, so no, absolutely. But yeah, going to be very interesting to see how Mackenzie's strategy pays off. He sits in third at the moment.
Yeah, well, we're having a look at him on the circuit at the moment. He's looking quite neat, and I reckon if you're going to roll the dice on tyres, this is a place to do it, because everyone is sort of all out there struggling with this road layout. Looking at his times, 1 minute 22.122 his last time. He dropped 2 seconds to Nathan Anderson, who's about 2 seconds down. So he'll probably lose that position. But it's James Foster. He's actually 11 seconds down the road, and he's just pulled him in by 0.6 of a second. So I reckon what Darren's rolling the dice on, he's basically coming in, putting himself in a great position, and then saying to the boys, okay, well, catch me if you can, and if you don't, I'm going to capitalise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just catch me if you can, it's get past me when you get there. There were a great old saying from Murray Walker, it's catching is one thing, passing is another, and that's absolutely the case here. Darren has traded having the luxury of having fresh tyres for track position. And on this kind of circuit, in this kind of race, track position is all that matters. And you can make a truck with bad tyres very, very wide and very, very difficult to get past. And if there isn't that too much of a gap between the tyre wear levels of the various trucks involved, even if a guy with fresher tyres is getting up behind you, he's trying different lines, he's trying to get out of the corner as fast, he's using his tyres, he's overheating those tyres, and you can actually force the car behind you to overheat their tyres and lose that edge that they have on you. So I think it's been an absolutely fantastic call by Darren McKenzie, and it may see him walk away with the top three when at the start of the race you wouldn't have said that was possible on outright pace. So if it works for him, I absolutely applaud his bravery.
Yeah, well, I think if you're going to do it anywhere, you do it on the road course, because all these guys are feeling their way. They're not going to be at the top of their game as far as lap times go, and they're liable to make more mistakes when they're under pressure. But at the moment now you can see Nathan all over the back of Darren. He's caught him. Now, as you said, let's see if he can get past him.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big place in which Mackenzie's going to be struggling now is under acceleration. The braking isn't going to be too bad, but he's going to really need to roll off those mid-corners well and get on the power early. Otherwise, Anderson's going to shoot straight past him here. As you can see, he's just having trouble holding the nose of that truck in tight because he hasn't got the grip. He has not got you see the theory of the friction circle. That circle gets that much smaller when you're running on worn tyres, and you can see Anderson having a look now. I don't think that Mackenzie big slide from Mackenzie. I don't think he actually got off the last corner that well, but he's managed to hold it on there. And what he really needs to be doing now is braking in a little bit of a different position, making himself unpredictable, making Anderson second guess himself. Because if the guy behind you is comfortable, he can plan his move and he can line you up and do what he wants to do. But if you're unpredictable, if you're slowing him up more than he wants to slow up and then accelerating in unusual places, you can unsettle him. And that's what Darren McKenzie really needs to do now, is to unsettle Anderson. Because on the basis of the car speeds and the tyre wear, Anderson is going to find a way past. So McKenzie really does need to be creative here, think about it, and really do his best to put Anderson off.
Yeah, exactly right. And of course, with all this sliding Mackenzie's doing, he's burning those tyres up more. But you can see he got off out of Moss corner very well that time, and Nathan didn't get as good a run as he did previously. But looking at their times, they've got 11 seconds up their sleeve for this battle as Darren goes...
Oh, Mackenzie!
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry to talk over the top of there, Bernie. He's made an absolute meal of that. Looks like he rears coming into the corner, trying to carry too much speed, launched over the grass. He's managed to gather it up, but he has lost that position. So his next focus is going to be on keeping James Foster up, I think. That position's gone. Yeah,
we're having a look at that. We were actually riding at the time with Nathan when we saw Mackenzie. He looked like he got loose under brakes, but we'll have a look at the slow-mo here and just sort of dissect what's happened. He's turned it in, but he's turned in way too early, and he's gone straight across the infield there. We've seen guys get mighty high air through there, so he got away with it. But of course, that's unsettled him, and he's gone off the other side. So that's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, I think he was probably just trying to turn early in the assumption that the truck was going to understeer. I'd say he was battling understeer. But I've got a question for you, Bernie. Are you ready for Foster versus Hinz round 2? Because it's happening right now. It's happening in reverse. It's now Foster defending from Hinz. And I think Hinz might want a little bit of revenge here. I think he might feel a little bit aggrieved about what took place earlier on, the fact that James was able to get that position. So Hinz, obviously a very accomplished road racer himself, and has been utterly fantastic coming into the ovals as well. Very solid, very clean, very consistent. Has had some great finishes, and now finds himself in his element, battling against James Foster in probably what James believes to be his element as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. We'll see if there's any more body contact, any more spite in this one to liven things up.
Yeah, definitely. We're riding on the roof cam here with Thomas, and we'll see if he's going to try and return serve here. I don't think he will. I think if he can get through cleanly, he'll definitely go clean. But if he has to push, I think you'll find he will, especially after the last effort with James in the SSZ.
Yeah, maybe that's the difference between Mr. Hinz and Mr. Foster. I guarantee you if James was in that scenario, he'd serve him up right now. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this one turns out. It looks as though Thomas might have a little bit of extra pace over James. I'm not sure if James is carrying too much damage from that collision with, first of all, Thomas and then Norman Clark also. So it does look as though Thomas Hinds does have the superior pace at the minute, but I can tell you from racing against James that he is one of the hardest blokes to pass I have ever come across. So this is going to be quite a battle.
God, I'll tell you what, it must have been hell for you growing up in the Foster household.
Well, there's 3.5 years between us, so I was always sort of the more experienced older one, and I think racing probably against me, as you see Thomas almost serve James up with the same move that he did to him. But if you actually, I think racing against me in the early days when James was obviously a lot younger child than I was, really hardened him up. There's not a whole lot that intimidates him now, and he will be, although it looks like a close race, he will be absolutely as calm as you like. This will not be phasing him at all.
Yeah, and when you were talking there and I saw Thomas position his car in the S's, I thought, oh, is this going to be return serve? It was exactly the same. The only difference was Thomas just rolled out of it a little bit and gave him enough room. But here comes Thomas again. He's looking like he wants that position. Well, we know he wants that position. It's just a matter of whether he can get it in the next 3 laps.
Well, Thomas will consider that position to be rightfully his after that contact. He will consider James to have well and truly stolen that from him. So he's really going to be looking at finding any way past. But I can tell you, James will position that truck in the most annoying way he possibly can to do exactly what I was speaking about before in the battle between Mackenzie and Anderson. Just putting it as Thomas is on the outside, sorry, just to cut away from that, but James is going to tuck into the inside there. I think he'll be able to come across, and he has done, keeping that bumper where it needs to be in front of Thomas Hinds. But I think that James is going to be doing everything he can to annoy Thomas. He's going to be doing everything he can to put him off. And it's going to be an interesting battle. We haven't got too many more laps to go now. And James is going to fancy his chances of keeping Thomas behind. But I guarantee you, Hinds is definitely going to fancy his chances of getting past, and he's going to be motivated. So let's see how this turns out.
Yeah, definitely. We've got 2 laps to go. And if you're wondering, folks, why we're focusing so much on this is one of the bigger battles there. The other battle where I'm keeping an eye on the telemetry is Braden Bateman and Stephen Williams. If we jump back, they're also battling for 9th and 10th. So basically I'm going to be doing a bit of jumping backwards and forwards, folks, to try to get you as much of this action as we can.
Yeah, it's difficult on these larger road courses when there's battles going on at opposite ends of the circuit. You've got to cover both, and unfortunately there's only one screen. So keeping in mind, of course, that battle for the lead that was shaping up so nicely at the beginning of the race, Jake Blackwell has checked out. He is 18 seconds of the road, and Nathan Anderson has actually caught up to Scotty Harris. Thomas Hinds going around the outside of James Foster again. It looks as though he has got the move done, and he covers him off. James will be slightly annoyed by that, but probably does feel as though Thomas has had the pace on him, but he won't give up without a fight, and he is going to be getting back all over him as much as he can. But Thomas will feel somewhat vindicated being able to get that position back, I'm absolutely sure. But just going back to touch on the battle for the lead, it is Jake Blackwell has cleared out on Scotty Harris. It's not as close as it was at the beginning of the race, certainly, and Nathan Anderson has actually caught right up to Scotty Harris and is only a couple of seconds adrift now. Darren McKenzie holding on with alternative strategy in 4th place, and we'll be very, very happy with that, as we can just see now Thomas Hinds actually gapping James Foster a little bit. So correct to assume that he did appear to have the better pace at that stage, but James will not be giving up, you can guarantee.
Yeah, and that all happened from Moss Corner there. James didn't get a good run off, and Thomas did, and that's how we got past him on Andretti Straight. But of course we can see now Jake Blackwell coming through the S's for the final time here tonight, and he's going to take the 97 straight to victory lane, and he's going to maximise the points haul he can possibly get tonight. And it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out in the championship. See now the 161, Scotty Harris, great drive from him. He dropped off 18 seconds at the end, but he's been up there in the top 2 all night. He'll come across in 2nd. Then we've got Nathan Anderson just behind him in 3rd. Darren McKenzie's gamble of not taking tyres has paid off. As you can see, it's still sliding. in fourth, Thomas Hinz.
Well done, Darren.
Yeah. And then we've got Thomas and James home fifth and sixth. Mirko Dutonovic. God, I'm getting that name wrong. Let's just call him Mirko. He'll come home in seventh position. Dave Douglas, he had a pretty good drive and moved his way into eighth by the end of the night. And then we've got Braden Bateman, who will come home ninth. 10th is Stephen Williams. And then we haven't seen much of him, but Danny G, he comes home in 11th position tonight, as we see him now. I think that's him. No, that's not. That was a 66, Daniel Stevens.
We haven't even mentioned Danny G tonight, have we? He's been out there, he's been circulating, he's come away with a good finish. 11th in quite a large field is nothing to be sneezed at. We just haven't seen him. He must have had either he's had a very quiet run or he's had an incredible run, and he'll be asking us ages later why we've actually missed it. So, but no, I'm sure that's not the case. I reckon he would have had a quiet and serene race through there to 11th place, which he'll probably take quite gladly, given the fact that road racing isn't his normal forte.
You can see him bringing that car in. The other one we didn't see much of at all, or we didn't at all, Bruce Ross in the 08. He came home in 12th position in the CMSR, as we see another car going into the fence down there. But I'm just having a look as well. It's so hard to cover off all these drivers. Riley Curtis, we didn't cover him off as well, but of course Jake Blackhall is out there celebrating, doing his donuts as all the winners do, and no doubt he'll be going straight to the winner's circle here, and hopefully we'll get to have a chat with him.
Absolutely, Jake's usually pretty good for a chat. Absolutely deserved victory there. I did pick him at the start of the night as my favourite, and he's duly delivered and made it sound as though I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, so I'll have to thank him for that. Look, he's done a fantastic job, and he's inflicted yet more pain on Jason Martin in the championship standings.
Yeah, and of course Jason didn't get into the server tonight, so he couldn't get any points. So as I was saying, it's going to be interesting next week when we see how the championship plays out. But for the viewers joining us, basically we had Jake Blackhall. He took the first two races. Jason Martin, I think, took the next three, and now Jake's got another one. So they're pretty much even as far as that goes.
Yeah, the general consensus, I suppose, is that Jason Martin really is probably, if not the best stock car racer in Australia and New Zealand, he's really, really close. And all things being equal, if he has a clean race, odds are that he's going to win it. But the fact is, when he hasn't had a clean race, when he's been involved like he was at Talladega or like he was at the beginning of the season at Gateway, when he's been involved in little incidents, Jake has always capitalised. He's always taken those opportunities to inflict pain, and that's why we see him still in such a competitive spot in the championship, and it's thoroughly deserved. You just need to be able to realise the days when you haven't got the pace to actually take the win and take what you can, and make sure when you do get the opportunity you inflict maximum damage, and that is how championships are won, and he is looking very good at the moment.
Oh, he certainly is, and we've got him down there in the green room. But before we bring him up, we might have a quick chat with Riley Curtis. We didn't see anything of Riley tonight, so I'm curious to find out how his race went. Finished 22nd and 2 laps down, so let's bring him in. We'll have a chat, then we'll go straight to Jake and Scotty Harris. Hi Riley, welcome to RRTV's broadcast booth, mate. Just a quick one, we didn't get to see much of you tonight. Can you tell the viewers how your race went?
Yeah, unfortunately I came to a bit of grief on lap 3. A bit of a glitch threw me to the inside of the track and I spun in front and got collected. And the engine then let go a few laps later, so I had to get a tow.
Yeah, we saw a bit of engine action going on out there, and looks like you had a fairly adventurous run, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would have liked to be a lot further up the field. I feel I had pace to run a bit higher. I had a pretty wicked battle with Norman there towards the end on old tyres, so I feel I had pace to run a lot higher. I just jipped myself a little bit with spinning.
Yeah, well, it looks like a lot of the guys were having that problem. Can you tell the viewers very quickly what it's like to drive one of these trucks around a road circuit such as Mosport?
Mosport's quite a loose circuit, I find. There's a lot of push in the car. You've got to really fight it to get it to turn into the corner. You can have a fair bit of grip once the car does turn in, but it's a tricky little track, as I found out the hard way.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers found it out the hard way tonight. But before we let you go, Riley, have you got any sponsors or anyone you want to thank tonight?
Yeah, I'll plug myself for doing my liveries, as well as Dave's with Riley Curtis Design, as well as Ash Media Speedway Footage and CapSafe. All of those guys helped me out a lot, so thanks to them.
Fantastic. Well, we'll catch up with you next Thursday night, and I'm not sure where we're going. Edward, do you know where we are?
Not off the top of my head. I kind of wish you hadn't asked me, because I feel like that's something I should know. But great to see both the Riley Curtis paint schemes out there. They are some of the best looking trucks in the championship.
Yeah, and we didn't get much of you tonight, Riley, but I'll definitely make sure we cover you next week.
Yeah, that's no worries. It's pretty bright, so you can see it in the background. But cheers for the coverage tonight, boys, and hopefully you have a good night.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for popping in, mate, and we'll see you next week.
See you later.
So he dropped 7 positions and came home 22nd, 2 laps down. So it sounds like Riley's night was pretty adventurous from the first lap, from how he explained it there, Edward.
Yeah, it's one of those midfield casualties that you sometimes get. Big field, tight circuit. One of those things. It's always someone, and it seems like there was a few people tonight involved in that.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're going to bring Jake Blackhall up. I know everyone's keen to have a chat with him. He absolutely blitzed him in the end. 18 seconds was the gap, and he looks very, very strong, even when he was coming under pressure from Scotty. I'll drop him in. Did you want to have a chat with him?
I would love to have a chat with him. Hello, Jake. Edward Foster here on the RRTV broadcast. Another win for you, mate. Talk us through it.
Hey, cheers, mate. Well, that was an interesting one. First sort of portion of the race, the first stint was actually pretty crappy by my standards. It was a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors. Scotty was there harassing me. I was a bit busy looking in my mirror rather than driving forward. Sort of came up with a plan, just try and undercut him, sort of thing, like you do in something P2, but I tried to undercut him from the lead. So that I could get that extra lap of just fresher tyres, gain a couple of seconds, and then make him push for it. So from there, that was it. Just sort of did that, and then the second half of the race, the car was just on rails. It was actually really good.
So that's one of the things that I wanted to sort of run through with you, because it did seem at the start of the race as though Scotty Harris seemed to have the pace over you. So was that just a case of getting yourself through that early phase of the race where perhaps you didn't have the outright pace and protecting your lead, and then making that strategic call on the pits and a hope for a calm run home, or was it more of an on the fly sort of judgment? That's just the way it turned out.
It was a bit of both, actually. It was sort of, I was making too many errors, keeping Scotty there. We'd gain one lap, then I'd make an error, then he'd gain back up, and then he'd make a little error. So it was just sort of tiptoeing like that all the way around, and then. It was more that I just didn't know what to do, tried to figure out some way that I could get a bit of a gap to make that second stint a little bit easier on the start of it. So I knew Scotty had the pace to try and keep up. So I was like, let's just throw that call in, let's pit around a couple of laps early than I think everyone else will, and try and make the benefit that way, and seemed to pay off in the end.
So I know that Harris was looking quite aggressive, especially in those early laps, right on your rear bumper there. Do you think that potentially hurt his tyres? Because I noticed that you weren't being quite as aggressive as he was with the turn in on the lines and those kind of things. And do you think that actually worked in your favour at the end? I mean, in the end, he almost got caught by third place, finishing 18 seconds behind you. Did that come down to tyre management? Was that something that was really in your mind at the beginning of the race, or was it just a case of you were fighting as hard as you could?
Well, at the initial point, I actually thought, yeah, we're going to go the distance here, and it will be like a splash and dash, maybe chuck 2 tyres onto the end. So that was definitely in my initial thoughts around the first 5 to 10 laps was definitely just make sure to conserve the rears, because that's what will burn up around here. The front you can sort of manage, and that was definitely what I was trying to do. But as soon as I saw Scotty there, then that's where I went, all right, I'm going to have to step this up in terms of trying not to make as many mistakes and try and keep him there. And then obviously that's when I made the call to come down early on the pit road. It was a shame that we couldn't have a lot of the other guys in, like Jason Martin, Sandman, I think was trying to come in as well. I was a little bit disappointed not to see them tonight. But that's what it is. But it would have been good to be able to race those guys, because it would have been on out in front.
Absolutely, it was a shame not to see Jason Martin, especially given the fact that he's a main player in the championship. And I guess moving conversation now over the championship, I made a point earlier on in the broadcast that while it's generally accepted that Jason Martin is probably one of the best, if not the best, stock car driver around in this part of the world, you have made him pay for it every single time that he has not won. Every time that he has not won the race, you've beaten him and inflicted as much pain as possible. So are you thinking about that in terms of where he is and what he's doing? You're just trying to run your own race, and how you're really approaching the points battle, I suppose, the bigger picture of this series?
To be fair, it's just sort of one of those things where you just try and make each race as it goes. I'm not really looking at the big picture. Obviously, everyone keeps bringing up good points and championship-wise, but I'm not looking at that until it's the last 2 races. When it's the last 2 races, then I'll sit down and figure out what I need to do to gain points or try and make a spot up or whatever I need to do to hold the lead or whatever the situation is. I do that in the last 2-3 rounds, wherever it's at. But at this stage, I'm just thinking, just get as many points as possible. Just take a race at a time. Every race you go out there trying to make a top 5 or a top 10 at minimum, especially with the way this field is. It's very strong. So just to be able to do that, that's just what you got to do in these sort of oval stuff. You got to make sure you got the consistency. I've done it numerous times before where you see people push and they'll win one race and then make a mistake and then fall back from there. So you've got to make sure you're consistent and finish inside the top 5 at least, or top 10 to try and make the most of it.
Absolutely. So I think that when you finally sit down and do look at the points, you're very much going to like what you see, because it's looking pretty good for you at the moment. I might just hand you over to Bernie now to see if he's got anything else he wants to ask the winner of tonight's race.
Yeah, Jake, well done, mate. Another great drive there. I was just having a look at the stats while you were having a chat there with Edward. Basically, got pole position tonight, led just about all the laps, apart from a couple, and got the fastest lap time, 1:20.088. So trifecta almost.
Almost. It was to be fair, I'm not a fan, and this is going to sound really stupid and pig-headed, but it's not. It's actually, I'm not a fan of driving NASCAR on road courses. I stick to my oval with them. I'm not when you see all the guys jumping on for, say, Sonoma or Watkins Glen, I'm not a big person that'll jump on it. I don't really like it, to be fair. I'd rather drive a supercar or something around a road course. It's a GT car. That's sort of what I feel like. So I wasn't expecting to come away with it tonight. But, the car was actually really good, really well set up for a fixed set. It actually felt really nice underneath me. So I think if it was a couple of builds ago, I wouldn't have been as comfortable in that car. But definitely a good night in that truck.
Yeah, definitely was. We pretty much tipped you as one of the big favourites going into this. We called you the road racing specialist in the NASCAR truck, so you didn't disappoint. But as always, mate, I've got my list here of your sponsors, and you can give us a shout out to them all, and I'll give you a score at the end.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to get this wrong now, Bernie. There's so many now that are jumping on that I don't even know.
Pressure.
Massive shout out, obviously, Evolution Racing Team, Logitech G, Joel Real Timing for all their support, especially tonight with the fuel numbers that worked a treat. GTI Springs, I'm going to miss a couple. I think Modem Simulation has jumped on board with a couple of the other guys, as well as I think it's Ragnar Simulation. So that's some of the other big GT guys that jumped on for them. And then also my personal sponsor, Asher Racing, for all their support this season.
Fantastic. I think you got most of them, because I don't know who's left and who's not. So, yeah, we'll give you a good score for that, Jake. So, of course, you don't have to answer to me. You've got to answer to your management if you got it wrong.
Yeah, that's who I'm going to get blasted by if I got it wrong.
Hey, he won the race. That gets you a certain bit of grace for sure.
Oh, I wish.
All right, mate. Well, thanks for dropping in. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and you absolutely blitzed it tonight. So, well done. Congratulations. And we'll catch you next week. I'm not sure where we're going. Edward has no clue, but wherever we are.
Chicagoland, actually one of my favourite.
See, I knew someone would know.
Chicagoland, awesome.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Disneyland. Is it nice like that, or is it?
It's a very nice racetrack, and I expect a good race next week. It'll be awesome. And once again, cheers to you guys, and Bernie, hope the computer goes well. It looked beautiful on the broadcast.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's running a treat, touch wood tonight. So hopefully,
Oh, don't say that.
No, well, I'm touching wood, so we'll be right. But yeah, it's a big improvement. So hopefully the viewers enjoyed the increase in resolution anyway. But anyway, Jake, thanks for popping in, man. Catch you next week. Are you running tomorrow night in the V8s?
We'll see. I have university stuff to get done during the early parts of the morning, but hopefully that's it for uni and I'm done for the rest of the year, and I may jump into the supercar. We'll see how it goes.
No worries. Well, yeah, don't worry about all that uni stuff. Anyway,
Yeah, I shouldn't be racing. But yeah, cheers, guys.
see you, mate. Okay, our next interview is with Scotty Harris and in the 161. And we'll bring him up and I'll have a quick chat and then I'll pass him over to you, Edward. Hi Scotty, welcome to RRTV Combox, mate, and congratulations, second place. You're in a good battle there with Jake for most of the race, but it looked like he just got away with you towards the end of it.
Yeah, it was a good race to start off with. Where I was right on him, pushing him all the way, kept trying to keep him honest, trying to, sort of save the tyres a little bit there, every little bit helps, but yeah, it was all going really according to plan, basically, up until about just before the halfway mark where we both come into the pits, and yeah, it kind of went downhill on my part from there on.
Yeah, so what exactly changed at that point? Was it your tyre strategy, or what was it that found you dropping behind Jake so much?
I just kind of lost my rhythm a little bit, and the track's hard enough to begin with, and with the truck going around there as well, it's as soon as you lose your rhythm, you start missing brake markers and apexes, and starts piling on top of each other, and the tenths turned into seconds. It's just one of those things, really. Just need to focus a little bit and try not to lose the concentration.
Yeah, and what's once you lose that concentration, it's hard to get that rhythm back, and that sounds like what's been happening tonight. But what's your experience with the trucks on road courses? We've noticed you seem pretty handy out there tonight. So do you do a lot of road racing?
I mainly focus on the road racing. Yeah, I was doing I think I did the Martinsville race in the truck a couple of weeks back, and had a little bit of internet trouble, so I've got all of them sorted and come back for this weekend, for this race this week. And yeah, felt really good. I felt really comfortable all throughout practice. I had the car hooked up, and it felt really good. And yeah, just kind of disappointed in myself a little bit in the second part of the race.
Oh, it's still a great result though. So I know it's disappointing, but you still got seconds. That's awesome. So I'll hand you over to Edward, and he can have a chat with you.
Hi, Scotty. I remember the first time that I actually encountered you on a racetrack was in the APCS series that we run on Monday nights, and you came into there. I'd never heard your name before, and immediately you were fast. Immediately you're right there up the front on a circuit which I'm not sure you had too much experience in. And at that point, I thought to myself that this is someone to watch. And I really did think, after watching practice and the start of this race, that you were going to take this one out. You had the pace on the entire field at the beginning, and I can tell you, having just spoken to Jake Blackhall, he said that you were giving him a horrible time at the start of this race. So I guess what I wanted to start off with is, first of all, congratulate you on the excellent second place. But you sound a little bit disappointed. I mean, do you feel as though this is a win that got away from you tonight, or how do you feel?
Yeah, thanks for those kind words, mate. It really means a lot. Yeah, look, I'm pretty disappointed in myself. I'm happy, and it's a good result for my team and stuff. We're only a small team. To get a result like this is a really, really good achievement for us. we don't put in as much work as I'd like to, but we yeah, it's a good result nonetheless. I'm just a little bit disappointed. If I had a little bit cleaner race on my behalf with the mistake-wise kind of thing that happened in the last sort of stint, I'd be a little bit more happy up it. It's still an overall a great result for our team.
So what were you thinking at the start of the race when you were, obviously I believe you qualified second and you started to really harass Jake? Were you thinking at that stage, I was a bit surprised to hear you earlier on say that you were looking at you're thinking about tyre wear, because from our point of view, it looked as though you were being very aggressive and very racy and it almost thrown sort of caution to the wind. So I suppose at that stage, did you think, I'm a good chance here, I'm likely going to win this thing? Or what was your approach in those early laps?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I thought I was in a really good position at the start. I was keeping Jake as honest as I could. We was going back and forth a little bit between slight mistakes between us two. But the gap was always under a second, 0.7 of a second around there. It was really good for us, and I was just thinking long term, gotta get past the pit stop and then see where we funnel out there, and if we're close and it's going to be on, to really just look after the tyres as best as I could. I found that might have looked like I was being a bit erratic and very aggressive in the car, but I was just trying to keep the lines a bit tight, try and shorten up the racetrack, and very, very smooth on the throttle, trying not to get that oversteer happening and try and save the tyre as best I could.
Well, I can tell you now, I think tomorrow morning after you've had a sleep, you wake up and you have another think about this one, you're going to be very, very happy with it, because I can tell you that anybody who can give a hard time to an Evolution Racing Team driver, the quality of the drivers in that team, can wake up tomorrow morning feeling very, very happy with themselves. I think you did a fantastic job, so well done.
Thanks, mate. That means a lot. Yeah, have a good sleep tonight, and definitely look back on this race as a very good result and a good achievement for our small little team.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Fantastic. Yeah, Scotty, have we done your sponsors? Have we done that? I wasn't listening.
I just want to thank One Performance Racing for keeping me honest and having some good fun with the boys in the team, and Fast Karts Racing Development. They're a good sponsor for us and really good mates of ours. So yeah, and also Dylan Shepherd Race Engines for a really rocket of a motor this weekend.
Fantastic. Well, anyway, Scotty, well done, mate. We'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll see you back up here again for another chat.
Yeah, thanks for that, boys. I look forward to next week, and hopefully I can have another chat to you guys again.
No worries. See you, mate.
Cheers.
Okay, so our final interview tonight is with Thomas Hins, but before we go to that, we're just hearing from your brother in Pit Road down there, and he was basically saying that he did suffer quite a bit of damage from that incident he was involved in, and it made it impossible for him to defend. So we were wondering about that, weren't we, Edward?
Yeah, we certainly were. I'll be very interested to hear Thomas Hins's take on the entire thing.
Yeah, well, I reckon we'll keep it in the family, so I reckon you should ask him.
Oh, okay. All right, we will.
Yeah, just, we just need some action up here in the broadcast booth. Here we go.
Thomas, welcome to the RRTV broadcast. I'm a little bit tentative to speak with you actually at the moment, because as far as I can see, my brother turned you around, and I'm a little bit worried that kind of hatred is going to spill over towards me. So perhaps you could just sort of talk us through your view of it.
I haven't have any thoughts. I mean, in the end, in my mind, it was actually a good thing, because it meant that we had that really cool battle at the end, me and James. That last 6 laps, whatever it was just awesome. That was just great fun. So it looks to me like, I look back on the replay, it looks like he just went in a bit hot, locked the brakes, and I mean, the moment, from what I could tell by the replay, the moment he locked those brakes there and he was trying to catch it, there was no real way that he was going to stop that. It looked like it was one of those things that was just going to happen once he locked up and went a bit deep. So, it's just one of those things, and it's just the slightest tap, really. That's why I thought I had it, and I was trying to fight it, and the thing just went on me. But, I'm not too bothered, really, to be honest, which is which is good. So yeah, as I said, I think I'm just taking the positive that it led to a really cool battle at the end. That was a lot of fun. But no, that race was good. I really enjoyed it. Very tiring. These things are just, you can feel how boat-like they are when they're around a road course. But they're a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. You've put me at ease a little bit. But I suppose just going back to that incident as well, because we were actually watching it live at the time that it took place, and we've seen James tap you and sort of oversteer as well. He obviously had the brakes at the very least snatching as he came into that corner, and we thought that you'd actually gotten away with it, and we're quite surprised to see you sort of off at the last corner. And just looking at it again, it looks as though you got the rear end was sort of got a bit like a pendulum, swung one way and then swung the other way and wound up in the fence. Is that how you experienced it? How you found it?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, as he said, I got the tap and I caught it and I thought I had it, and then I was like, oh, here we go, I've got it, and then let off to try and straighten, and then it went back the other way. I was like, oh no, here we go, it's gonna go. And so I think when it snapped the second time, my mind anyway thought that just stamping it was the only way, because otherwise it was just gonna spin on the apex, which would have been just the worst place to spin. So I tried thinking maybe if I just gun it might straighten out, but obviously it didn't work out, and then it just snapped again the other way. And so I think it was just the way that the tap was, and with those car taps, a lot of the time it can be like that, especially I think because of that corner there, because the car's so loaded. It's really hard to save it when it goes like that, and especially when it's a tap you're not expecting. So it's just one of those things. And the main thing I'm happy with is I managed to minimise the damage and only tap the wall pretty lightly, really, and I seemed to get away without any real damage. So pretty lucky, really, but I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose we'd almost expect to see you up near the front tonight, being a road course, but I think the thing that surprised a lot of people, and certainly surprised me, is how quickly that you've taken to the oval side of things. I mean, you've had some really, really good, consistent front-running results so far, even in the ovals, and it seems like, as yourself being more of a prevalent road racer, and only really doing the ovals as sort of a side project from your point of view. Are you sort of surprised about how well it's gone? Because I must admit I am.
Yeah, well, thanks, Edward. I guess I think I am a bit. As you say, you're pretty much bang on. I mean, only consistently, this series is the only oval series that I do. It's basically my first proper oval series I've decided to do. Other than that, I just every now and then, if I'm around when the Americans are all on doing the ovals and the official stuff, I might jump in and do the odd race. But yeah, I'm not really. I more do it as a fun thing more than properly as oval racing. And yeah, I guess I would say that I am a bit surprised, really. I wouldn't have thought I'd be up there fighting with right at the front. We are around like Martinsville, for example, and a couple of those races where I've been up there with those guys, because I know a lot of the guys here are really experienced oval racers, have been doing it for a long time. So I'm quite surprised, but it's good. I'm glad that I'm up there, because it's good fun. I really enjoy it. These guys are great to race with, and as I say this with all this kind of thing. People I think a few people have asked me, where's the pace come from? And honestly, I have no idea. So I'm the worst person to ask, because to me, I'm just driving. To me, I'm just driving, and it's just that's how it is. I think I don't know. I think one of the things I've noticed is that I think I showed a little bit tonight with the laps and being able to keep the tyres live maybe a little bit better, is that my strength's always been consistency and just decent times. So in quali I'm not usually that good, but in the races where I'm better at, that's probably why endurance suits me to an absolute T in terms of driving style and that. So that maybe helps an oval as well. I've noticed it's a few tracks, not all of them, but a few tracks I've sort of got the groove and figured out how to save the tyres and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, as you said, it's surprised me as well as you and anybody else. It surprised me, and it's just a welcome, pleasant surprise to be up there fighting with all of these guys and having a blast too. This is ever since I've started this series, it's been just awesome. Obviously Talladega last week was a little bit interesting. I think I got turned once there and wasn't able to recover really, but that's Talladega. But yeah, I don't know, it's been awesome. Been great fun tonight. As I said, was just great battles, close racing. I mean, there's a moment with me and James, but just it's racing, it happens. So I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad I'm coming in and doing okay.
Excellent to hear. I'm not surprised to hear that you're an endurance racer, because I think in terms of the main differences, whenever anybody asks me the main difference between road racing and oval racing, I always say more than the actual physical skills, it's the mental approach. It's the patience and learning how to strategize and so on and so forth. And I think that probably your experience in endurance races really allows you to make that transition a lot easier than somebody who may be just mainly involved in sprint racing a lot of the time on the road. I mean, would you agree with that, or do you think it's something different?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. Yeah, I definitely think it makes it easier because you're able to sort of see things happening and kind of figure out the ways to race a bit quicker. And probably just generally, when you're in these races, you kind of pick up on things a bit better, perhaps if that's the way you go. And but one of the things I like to think as well is that everyone's got their own style, of course. So there's people who are just really aggressive, really full on, just ragged edge all the time. That's fine. Everyone's got their own style, and I have nothing against that at all. As long as you're clean racing, that's all that really matters to me. But as I've probably showed Ian tonight a little bit, I'm a bit more patient and try and play the long game, I guess, is what I try to do. Bit hard doing that when you're in like the V8s, when those kind of cars, everyone's just on 10/10 all the time. It's a bit interesting, but yeah, I always try and think longer game, which again, as you say, probably I do better endurance. But yeah, I think it definitely helps for oval, because I know in oval, and as I've so far experienced, there's just so much strategy to it with conserving tires and when to push, and especially with plate racing like last week, how that works and the best way to take those races and tackle them. I think it definitely helps, because oval racing, there's a lot of thinking and strategy and all that goes on in it that, to the casual viewer at least, it probably wouldn't seem so, because you just think, oh, you're just going around in circles, there's nothing really to it. It's like, well, no. so yeah, no, it's good stuff.
All right, well, excellent job again tonight, Thomas. Great to have you in the ANZCAR. I'm glad that you chose ours if you're going to do any oval series at all, because obviously I'm biased, but I think it's the best one across Australia and New Zealand. So I'll pass you over to Bernie now, and he can have a bit of a chat with you as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Edward.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say, Thomas. Main one is, have you got any sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, unfortunately, because we don't actually Pro Force anyway, we don't have a livery for the silver running the GoPro, and also because GoPro, as Sean would tell you, if there's anything with GoPro, generally I'm just going to run it. There's no real decision. It's just like, it's GoPro, well, that's being run, I'm sorry, but it just has to be. Something about GoPro and just the blue it has, something about it just always looks really good to me. But anyway, in terms of actual sponsors, the team, I'll give them a shout out anyway, seeing as they went on the car, Kearney, Race Centre, GTI, our main sponsors. Big thanks to them as always for sponsoring the team. Shame that I didn't have a showing tonight for those sponsors, but maybe a wink, nudge to Sean to maybe make a little silver row livery. But yeah, thanks to them, and thanks to the team as always. Awesome bunch of guys to race with and just chill with. Just awesome guys. So big thanks to them. And yeah, looking forward to next week. We'll leave Chicagoland next week. So back to the sort of more traditional oval. So yeah, I'll see how I go. Hopefully can do okay, but look forward to it.
Yeah, I've got an idea for you. You should go and approach GoPro. Tell them to sponsor you. Get a GoPro camera, strap it to your head, and then stream live the race.
Yeah,
they're not short of coin, mate. Get after them.
That's it.
I will do, Bernie. Will do. I'll take that on.
Yep. So if you're listening, Mr. GoPro, here's the man. Come and sponsor him. Anyway, Thomas, we'll see you at Chicagoland next week. It's going to be exciting. I've never been there. I've been told it's a bit like Disneyland for racing drivers, so hopefully they've got a nice Ferris wheel for me to ride on.
Sure they will. It's always good to hear that going into it. But yeah, thank you very much to the broadcast guys as always. Awesome job, and yeah, see you next week.
See you, mate. So, Edward, a very exciting race tonight, although the big one didn't come. I was expecting a lot of carnage tonight, but the guys really impressed me with the way they approached this race tonight. Awesome driving and a lot of self-control going on.
Yeah, as we touched on just before the race, I was expecting certainly a bit of carnage on that opening lap, especially going through turn 2, being that off-camber, bumpy, downhill, fast left-hander. You kind of think that a whole pack of guys is going to get into each other, but they were very well behaved. I wish they could be that well behaved all the time. But look, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope that I did okay at commentary, and I've left RRTV a somewhat still viable proposition and haven't ruined the whole thing for you.
No, you're absolutely brilliant, mate, and anytime you want to park the truck and come up here, you're more than welcome to. You attacked it like a pro. So no, really good. Really appreciate your help, because quite honestly, folks, if Edward hadn't have jumped up here tonight, you wouldn't have been watching this, because we just did not have a co-commentator. So if there's anyone out there that wants to try commentary, and you love your trucks or just love your racing, contact us, and I'm sure we can accommodate you. But that's not saying I don't want you back in here, Edward. You're always welcome, mate. You there, or did you leave?
Yes. Sorry, I just lost audio there for a second. So glad these little hiccups are coming after the race and not during it. But yeah, absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. It's certainly a different experience watching these races from the outside rather than being in the thick of it. You get a much better, I suppose, picture of the larger picture of the race rather than your own little pocket of it. So yeah, absolutely had a great time, and I hope that that everybody watching enjoyed it as much as I did, because I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. And of course, tomorrow night, folks, if you're a V8 supercar fan, then come and join us tomorrow night. I think it starts at 9:15 p.m. GMT plus 11, and the V8 supercar boys are going to Circuit Villeneuve for a 150 sprint. And as you know, when we get 50 V8 supercars and we unleash them at Circuit Villeneuve, anything generally happens. So come and join us there tomorrow night. Then, of course, Sunday night, we're just confirming up, but I think we have the Tristo 300 will be coming your way, which is a charity event, if I'm not mistaken, Edward.
Absolutely, it is. We're running that as an assistance for Tristan Yelland, who's an iRacer who's been around the traps for quite a while. He's doing it a bit tough medically at the moment, and of course, when you do have medical issues, the costs do stack up. So we sort of took our inspiration from some of the sprint car guys. Bob King ran a charity race for him. I believe it was the Harvey Bay Auto Glass 410. Racing in the sprint cars, and we're now running an Xfinity race on the Sunday night. So if there's anybody actually out there who's thinking about jumping into this style of racing or has done a bit before and would like to do that, we just ask for if you check on the iRacing forums, there's a link to the GoFundMe page. Just put a donation of any amount on there, and then just send us through your details on the forum post, and we'll add you to the grid, and you can come out and have a great night's racing. If you're not too keen on doing that, of course, it's going to be broadcast on RRTV, so you can enjoy it from there.
Yeah, exactly right. And normally we'd have the super skips on Sunday night, but we've just changed our programming just for this week to accommodate this special event. So if you can possibly back it and put some money towards Tristan's GoFundMe, that would be really, really awesome. And of course, I've got Steve Hoppett up here in the combox with me on Sunday night, so it's guaranteed to be quite a fun night, I think.
It'll always be a good call with Stevie Hoppett around.
That's exactly it. But anyway, folks, that's our coverage tonight of the ANZCAR Thursday Night Thunder. And one thing, Edward, before you go, thanks, mate, for jumping in. I really appreciate it. You did a good job. And to everyone that joined us tonight, thank you. Whether well, you would have joined us on YouTube because we're not on iRacing Live at the moment. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night for the V8 Supercar action. If not, come and show your support for the Tristo 300 on Sunday night. And it's guaranteed to be a lot of fun. But anyway, Edward, thanks for joining me, mate. We will hopefully see you back out on the track next week at Chicagoland.
That's definitely the aim. Although I must admit, it's been an absolute pleasure working on this tonight. Everybody, have a look at the V8 Supercar race, because if you're not interested in V8 Supercar racing, are you really Australian? Honestly. So go check it out, and then come check us out on Tristo 300. It's literally the best thing to do on YouTube. Just saying.
There you go, folks. Oh my goodness me. There you go. You've heard it from Mr. Foster himself. But until then, folks, it's Friday tomorrow, so have a great last day at work, and then celebrate with the V8 Supercars. Get your beer, your popcorn. Well, popcorn beer doesn't go well, but, steak sambo, you'll be right. But until then, folks, on behalf of Edward Foster, I'm Bernie Weemers. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to your company again next time. Good night.